Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Before I get into this video, I'd like to ask you all to please leave a like and comment on my video and consider subscribing to my channel. So once more, we are following Bubblegum First and her partner Jose. So here we go on the next part of the whole story of Destiny. Now, before we get into our story itself, there's a few incidents that need to be explained that prelude the actual start of the game for us. Now, the first thing that we should note is the Awoken returned to our galaxy from where they were taken, the distributory in the prelude to Destiny. So, where the Zangwei was taken was this singularity called the distributory. The Awoken leave it and now enter into the asteroid belt, the reef around Mars, basically the ring around Mars's orbit. That is where they are now situated. And from there, we then get the whole prelude of war for Earth. Now, Earth sets up study stations within the portion after the Golden Age. Um, Guardians move towards Venus, the moon, and towards Mars. At this point here, they now encounter two major enemy fronts who really push them back heavily. On Venus, the Vex rise up, and the Guardians are now forced to pull back as they start losing massive amounts of units and forces to the Vex as they overwhelm them, and their research has now been slowed down slightly. The Vex did exist prior to the Golden Age, and some information and research had been done on them. Now, when it came to Mars, the great warm mines of the Golden Age, Rasputin, was now totally hidden from us. It wasn't responding or giving us any information. When it came to Mars, the Guardians had attempted to hold it, but in the end, they ended up failing when a new race had arrived called the Cabal. And this is when this planet Mars became their home territory, and with them was also the Vex on Mars. Now, coming back down towards Earth on the moon, another species called the Hive had arrived, and when they arrived, they had brought so much of death towards the Guardians that it had believed that we can't leave the city anymore. On Earth itself was the scavenger fallen from the previous world, the Elixni, who were now following the Traveler, and they started picking on the remaining humans in the society. So basically, they were the enemy of the humans, and the Risen, who had been resurrected by ghosts, the little lights released by the Traveler, were not exactly guardians at the time. They were what you would call warlords. And from this point, they would go through many conflicts and eventually end up becoming the guardians through a group of elite warlords who call themselves what was it? The Iron Lords. And they basically protected the people and eventually would lead to the erection of the tower and the wall around the last city under the Traveler. So that is how we get to the point where we are resurrected. Now, many ghosts didn't ever get a guardian, so they still looking for a person who can wield the light that's within them. So our ghost was now searching through many different places. He searched many different worlds and he kept running around looking for someone to resurrect. Now, when it came to Earth, there were several battles that did occur. I'm not going to go through them in detail, but the Awoken did actually stop Earth from losing after the erection of the city. In a major war, they played a massive part. So at this point, our ghost is now searching around the old Russian cosmodrome, and it ends up finding a body. That body being us, and it resurrects us, and that is the start of our destiny story. Our story moves along as we attempt to escape from the old cosmodrome. We take an old jump ship and we end up taking it back to the tower. We then decide that we want to outfit this jump ship so that we can go on to other planets and start exploring more and more of Earth's territory. So we return back to the cosmodrome and defeat the first of the Elixni to get the first hell of the Elixni to get the jump drive to start our ship's engines. Unaware to us, someone has been following us this whole time. Her name is the Exo Stranger. So we will now get to the point where the Exo Stranger now starts following us around. On Earth, we then explore several areas, start opening up the Cosmodrome for us to actually secure the place for the Vanguard, and we end up running into the Hive. We find out that the Elixni had locked them away within one of the areas, and we end up opening this bunker and releasing the Hive on the surface of Earth. So we end up fighting them and finding out what their plans were, and we end up setting up the last array on Earth and reconnecting it to the war mines. At this point, we find out that Rasputin is alive on Earth, and he connects out his signal through the last array to multiple locations, trying to reconnect to his old network. We then follow some of the signals towards a threat display on the moon. Now, when we arrive on the moon, we end up taking on the Hive for the first time, and we end up defeating mass numbers of them. We eventually are forced to go into a dark ritual where we kill the Hive who are trying to suck out the light from the Traveler. So this is just basically where our story leads us. At this point, we are contacted by the Exo Stranger, who tells us that we should go down and fight the Hive to stop the ritual that is killing the Traveler, and then we should head off to where she is telling us to Venus, because there is a greater threat there. So we go down, we kill the three witches who are performing the ritual, and we recover a shard of the light and transmit it back to the city. At this point, the Traveler stops dying from the influence of this darkness, but it doesn't start to heal in any way. So we end up going to Venus as the Exo Stranger had instructed us, and we end up finding the Vex there. And she explains to us that we need to find the Black Garden, where the Vex are hiding a great secret that is actually keeping the Traveler from healing. So we go through and we follow through with this entire story. She tells us to go out to the reef, to the Awoken Queen, and find out about the Black Garden. So we end up going there. This is our first encounter with Aldrin Sov and Mara Sov. They end up telling us that we need to find Gate Lord's eye and bring it to them. So we end up going back to Venus. We kill the the Gate Lord at the Endless Steps, and we end up taking its eye back to Mara Sov. Now the eye is actually damaged, and she tells us that we need to find a way to repower it and have it restored to its power so that we can open our path into the Black Garden. We return to Mars. We end up powering up the eye by going through the Cabal defensive network and using some of the Vex tech to actually repower the eye. At this point, we end up going into the Black Garden. Now, the Black Garden is home to a group of Vex called the Soul Divisive. They worship the darkness. Now, please note that the darkness is just the way that they worship, and we go in and we end up fighting them on several fronts until we reach the heart of the Black Garden. The heart of the Black Garden is total darkness, and it gives life to three massive statues who were devoted to the Soul Divisive, and we end up defeating them, and in defeating them, we end up destroying the heart of the Black Garden. And that defeats the darkness there at the time and reawakens the healing process of the Traveler. The Traveler isn't awake as yet, it just starts healing up a little bit. And this leads us to the end of the first part of the Destiny story. In the next video, I will be going forward with the next part of the story. So thank you all for watching. Have a good day.